Hello friends, I welcome you to a new lecture, test plan. So friends, test plan is very important and I would say it's a core for any testing team. So I might be stretching a bit here on test planning, how we are preparing the test plan, what are the important aspects of the test plan, what is the importance of each and every matrices we are capturing in this. So although you might be seeing we are having only one slide, but I prepared a sample test plan and we will go through that. So before going to the test plan document, let's see a definition of test plan. So what is a test plan? Test plan can be defined as a document describing the scope, approach, resources, schedule of intended testing activities. So if I want to say a gist, I can say for a testing team it's a Bible. Like it will contain each and everything. When they will be starting their testing, what are the timelines, what is the scope of the project, what is not in scope, and in the defect management, in case of any escalations, whom they need to escalate. So it contains the escalation metrics also, and apart from that, the entry criteria, the exit criteria. So anything which a testing team requires during the execution or after the execution, test plan contains that all. So here I have put in definition. It has been given by it's a IEEE definition. So we will read it out. A document describing the scope, approach, resource and schedule of intended test activities. It identifies amongst other test items the feature to be tested, the testing tasks, who will do each task, degree of tester independence, the test environment, the test design techniques, entry and exit criteria to be used, and the rationale for their choices, and any risk requiring the contingency plan. It is a record of a test planning process. So actually this is a definition given by ISTQB, not by IEEE. Sorry for that. So moving on, like okay, we have definition. So but why we are doing this much, why we are putting so much effort in preparing a document? Once we will go through the document, you will see that how big test plan is and how many things we need to capture in test plan. So basically, what is the need of this? So first of all, test plan help us to determine the effort needed to validate the quality of applications under test. Okay, and apart from that, it help the people outside the test team who are not aware about the testing process, or a person who is not at all associated with this project, and maybe in the coming future he or she will be going to be a part of this project. So it helps people outside the test team, such as developer, business managers, customers, in fact all the stakeholders, understand the details of testing. And apart from that, for us, for the testing team, it's a rule book. At any time of course, if we are having any doubt, any dilemma, we can refer. It's a rule book for us, and it contains all the important aspects: the strategy, the scope, estimation, all the documents, all the links, which can be reviewed by the management team, and it can rather be reused in the upcoming projects too. Okay friends, So before without wasting time, we will move on to the sample document. Okay. So what are the important? So there will be some standard template. It depends on the company. The company you are working in, or the company you are going to work in. Every project, every account has some different format. So there will be some central of excellence team who will be making the templates. So there will be some standard followed across the verticals. So, but in general, more or less they are going to contain the same, the same metrics, the same thing. They are every test plan is going to capture. Okay. So okay, I believe I deleted the content by mistake. Content page. Okay, no worry. So first of all, first comes the executive summary. So here we will be briefing about the project, the release, what the project in the particular release, what we are going to test, just an overview of it. And apart from it, very important thing is that who will be the approval review list. So for test plan, when the test plan will come in picture, first we need to understand that. So whenever so first of all, the testing team will get the business requirements. Testing team is going to review. If they have any queries, they will get it clarified with the BA, with business. And once the requirements is being clarified, so we will start working on the test plan. So mainly test plan will be created. It will be published by the manager, or in some cases might be team lead too. So team lead and team manager in coordination, they work out on the test plan. So first of all, whenever we are publishing the test plan, so it's a kind of agreement with all the stakeholders that what is in update, what we are going to do, and they need to agree. So we need to take a approval from all the concerned stakeholders. So here we are defining all the persons, important persons in the project, whom approval we will be requiring. So test plan approval is the first thing. We need to have the test plan approval, then only we are moving to the next phase, to execution. So first of all, here we will see the roles. So test manager, it is a manager, the manager who is managing the SQA, the quality team, is a test manager, and under manager there can be multiple projects, multiple testing projects might be going on. Now test coordinator is someone who is specific for that particular project, and as the name suggests, test coordinator role is to coordinate the work, like if there are any queries, or if we need some approval, that all will be managed by the coordinator. So it again depends from project to project and company to company. All these names may change, and test coordinator and team lead, at some places you will find a single person doing both the role, and in fact team lead is like a backup for a coordinator, and in the absence of a team lead, coordinator will act as a team lead also. So coordinator, then the testing team, the development manager, change manager. Now this is an important person. Change manager is basically the project manager, the person who is responsible end to end for the particular release, who will be taking care of the budget part of any change request, of any approval, anything which has been required for the project. It's a responsibility of manager. So change manager is a person who is responsible for end-to-end success of the project. Now portfolio project manager, it's a level up, and like their portfolio manager means if there is a, for example, if there is a portfolio of loan management, so under loan management also there can be multiple projects which will be handled by individual change manager, and this list will change as per the project. Ops analyst, so ops like operations are the people at some places it can be same as the UAT people, the user acceptance test people. So UAT, you can say ops as a UAT people, or the person who are in actual in real world scenario, they are somehow linked to the applications we are going to test. So they have the knowledge of the real world, how this application is when going live, like what will the functionality, what will be the volume of transactions. So these are the person who are having client facing experience. Okay, so ops manager, again this can be changed. A digital channel manager, it change. Technology people, SME is a subject matter expert. So for example, if we are working in some shipping industry, then there will be some domain expert who will be guiding and whom we can go and we can clarify our doubts, both the development and testing team. Now next comes the project documents. So under project documents, all the important documents, in fact all A to Z, all the documents, whatever is there for that particular release, we need to list them up, and we need to provide either we need to attach those documents or we can provide the link. So discovery or SharePoint. So these are the discovery of SharePoint in most of the projects we use. Other project may use some other thing. It is some central, you can consider as a central repository where we will be having the access, and all the documents related to the project will be uploaded there, and for that particular path access will be allotted only to the persons who are working on that project. So all the documents we will be providing the link. So it's a standard process, not to store in any shared drive or in a local drive, but to put it in some server, in some repository which can be accessed by anyone at any time. So here we will be putting all the documents. So project charter is something which comes at the very starting phase. So mainly the change manager or the project manager, they will come up with a problem statement. It will be hardly a 1 page or 2 page. Again, there will be some templates, so I am not going into detail in that. It is totally with respect to a project management, nothing to do with the testing team. So it will be a 1 page or 2 page, and it will be a very crisp summary of the problem statement. What is the problem statement? So for example, there is some web page, some UI, and we need to introduce a new field. So there will be a problem statement like as per the government mandate, this field is mandatory and we are not providing this field as of now, so need to be implemented by this date. Very crisp and very short. What is the problem statement, that will be there, and budget will also be there, the budget allocated. So with that, once the project manager or the product owner submit that project charter, it got approved, then all the process will start, where the requirements will come using that problem statement. Then business analyst will come up with the requirements. Then using those requirements, there will be functional requirements. If you remember, we discussed this in the very first lecture. And from the functional requirements, then we will have the high level design document, low level design document, which is specific to the development team. Then the mapping documentations will be prepared. So mapping documentation is something like, if we are having number of systems, like 4-5 systems, system 1, system 2, system 3, suppose we are having 3 systems and we are having some particular field, so there may be a change in a format or the mapping may be different. So like field 1 in system 1 is mapping to field 5 of system 2, and again there is a change in a format. So it will be a Excel where we can see how the each field will look like, what will be the format, and what will the position, how it will look like in each and every system. So that is a mapping documentation. Design document we have already discussed, like LLD, HLD. Now project impact assessment, it is again something related to the project management. I will not go into it. Now process flows. So there will be the process flow diagrams. So it will be a graphical depiction of the flow, like how, for example, if I am taking any internet online transactions, what is the flow? So first customer is entering something, then submitting that transaction, how it is flowing, and what are all the permutations and combinations. So there will be flow charts also. There will be some diagrams depicting the flow, and apart from that there will be a flow charts also. So that is a process flow. Now change request. So change request, it is like assume that BRD is already been finalized, development team has started working on it. Now when it comes to the testing team, we have come up with some loophole that business people might have missed, a loophole. So we need to do some changes in the original requirement, or maybe at the time of testing we came up with a defect which went unchecked all time when they were planning, when they were designing the system, and because of that they need to change in their design part, like the flow they need to change, or something they need to change the approach. So that is a so for making such changes, like all the things have been finalized. Now for making these changes, the project manager need to raise the change request, need to get the approval for that. After that a BRD is going to change, and accordingly the development team will act and testing team will also act. And one more thing, like suppose we have submitted we got the approval for a test plan, and later in a execution phase we came up with some defect, because of which some CR stands for change request, have been raised, and there is some changes in a approach of testing, or in scope of testing, or in the requirements. Then again we need to come up with we need to make those changes in a test plan, and we need to take the approval of the stakeholders who are concerned with that particular change. Okay. Testing documentations will contain the test scenarios, the proofs, the QC links, the matrices we are going to publish, the different approvals, all the things. Now coming to the scope. So test scope. So we need to define the test scope. So here we need to list down the requirements which we are going to test at high level, what all things we are going to test, and what types of testing we will be doing, like whether we are going only for the smoke testing or for the regression testing. So what is in a scope that we need to define, and it is very important because in later stage if some defect is coming up, we have to be sure that whatever we are responsible for, if that defect is not from that, if that defect is not from that, and we can prove that only by this test plan document, that this was the agreed document and we are not responsible for anything outside this. So this defect is coming out of our scope and it is not in a plate. Okay. But otherwise also it's a very important thing, like what is in a scope we need to define, because when we are preparing this test plan and passing for the approval, all the stakeholders, developers, they will have a look and they will come to know that what is the testable requirements, what we are going to test, and for the remaining requirements they can work out some alternate way who will be taking care of those requirements. Okay, now another important thing is security testing. So there can be there will be in fact security testing and performance testing. So mainly a manual tester who will be doing a functional testing will not be taking care of this. There will be specific team taking care of the security and the performance testing, so we will not be taking care of it, so it's not applicable for us. But if you are a manager and if you are taking care of the security aspect also, then you can include here. And friends, don't see that it is important only for someone who is going to take a lead or manager role. It is important for each and every member of testing team. They need to first go through this document to understand the scope, and even if I say in a practical experience, there come up many things, like when we are testing we are having some scenarios, but it happens to me also. So it's a recent incident only. So we are done with our testing, we are all good, and we have in fact some 3-4 days extra left and we were done with our testing. Then I just went through the test plan, and I was just looking at what is in scope, what is not in scope, and when I was going through what is in scope and some other details, I was able to connect the dots and I came up with some scenarios, some particular types of transactions which we forgot to test. So documentation is very important because it helps us in keeping the track of all the activities, all the things what we have planned. It will go in a systematic way. So items not in scope is also equally important as the item in scope. Like security testing, performance testing, we are not going to do. And suppose interface testing, are we supposed to do interface testing or not? End-to-end connectivity, like from the very start of the system till the end, do we need to do is it in scope of our team or not. And here the application. So as I told that whenever we are testing a particular system, it will always, most of the time, will consist of number of subsystems or applications. So it is applications which are in scope for testing. So for example, even if we take a banking application, so whenever we are making a payment from UI, so you can consider so many applications are coming in picture. First of all, there will be a front page, the UI, which needs to validate our input and which has to be correct to accept a payment. Then at the background there will be some database which will be getting hit, which will be storing this information. Then when this whatever payments we submitted, then it may be converting to some XML or some encrypted information, and then it is going to the server where the payment is getting processed. Again, all the details are getting checked. There may be some multiple systems. The same information will flow in different reports. Whatever reports we are generating, all the transactions has to be there. So, and after that it will go to the RBI, the clearing house, and if we are getting the approval, then payment will be settled. If it is not going to settle, then client account need to have the need to be credited back. So many flows are there, so many systems, applications. In real, when we are talking about any real scenario, even for one simple transaction, there will be at least 7 to 8 different applications. So many systems are going to get impacted. So all those applications we need to list down here. Now assumptions and risk. Now these are also the interesting things. So under assumptions, for example, we will be assuming something like okay, client will not be giving this sort of data, like something which is not realistic data like that, or server will be up all the time. And risk anything which may impact our testing. It can be a system downtime, it can be a resource risk. So for example, we usually always face this around the end of the year, when it's a Christmas time or New Year. If we are planning any release, we see a delay in that, so we will have a risk of resource there. So all the risks we need to list down. And also, if functionality is not yet been finalized, it is keep on changing, that risk also we can put it here. So any kind of risk, internal, external, any factor, we need to list it down. Now friends, there is although I am not going deep into it, but risk management is also the one aspect of any project. So what will happen if we are seeing any risk, any risk maybe which may not be mentioned in the test plan, when we are coming to the execution, we are facing a delay, or we are seeing a defect because of which we are almost halted. We are not able to move in our testing because of some SEP 1, SEP 2 defect, and we are seeing a delay, and because of that our testing timelines are also getting shrinked. So in such a case, what will happen? Test manager or test lead, they will raise a risk to the concerned person, maybe the first level of escalation. If not, if it is serious and it might be going to impact the go live date, then we can raise it to the change manager or project manager, and then project manager in the project management tool system, they will raise a risk assign the person who will be linked to that defect, for example, who can work on it, the managers, and what is a go to green plan they need to provide, and how to bring the project back into the track. So that is a brief about the risk management thing, and it is a very important thing, because anytime when in a capacity we are seeing that this work is not possible or something is stopping us, we need to immediately escalate it to a immediate supervisor. So if you are team member, escalate to your team lead, or team lead to the manager, and to the project manager. Because if you are registering the risk, like being timely, if you are registering a risk, first of all you are saving yourself, and apart from that it will be very helpful for the stakeholders to take care of that risk and to come up with some plan to mitigate that risk. Now, test schedule milestone. So this is also very important aspect of any test plan. So test lead, coordinator or manager, whoever is taking care of the test plan, they need to work out with all the different teams, like when the VRD is going to be finalized, when the development is going to finalize to be done, what will be the timelines for the development. Then they will come up with the testing team. They will ask the estimates. Maybe they can use some techniques like WBS, like workbench. I'm forgetting the name, but basically they will be dividing all the activities, and they will be estimating how much efforts is needed for each and every activity, and based on that they will be fixing that at least we will be needing 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, based on the requirements, how much time we will be needing to complete a testing. And we need to keep some buffer time also, considering the different risk factors. Then they need to work out with the UAT team. They need to ask how much time they will be needing. So once the set will complete, then we will hand over to UAT team. Then UAT team will do their testing, and maybe simultaneously end-to-end testing will also take place. The regression timelines, when finally the set and UAT is going to give the sign off, the released test completion, the code freeze date will also, I have not mentioned, but a code freeze date will also come. So code freeze date is basically like, so for example, if on 15th of April we are having a go live date, so by saying go live is application will be go live and customer can use that. So that is a go live date. So at least a week or 10 days before that, code will be freeze, and developers will not be allowed to make any single change to the code. So that is a code freeze date, and that is important, because even if we are coming up or we are detecting any defect in after code freeze, then it is of no use, because developers are not allowed to make the changes. So this is very important, and this concept is there. So the last minute that rush will not be there. So we have to complete our testing on time, because after that also there are many processes. Once we are done, then we need to take all the approvals. Change manager need to take all the approvals. Then they need to pass it to the release management. So release management is manager is someone who is taking care of the deployment. maybe in SIT, UAT, or even in the prod environment. They are taking care of the environment. So if they are getting all the sign-offs, like okay, they are getting all the sign-offs from the development team, from the testing teams, no major defect is like there is no open major defect, all the things are as expected, then release management will push that code to the prod. Now roles and responsibilities. So we have already we have already talked about all the different stakeholders coming in picture, and we have already discussed what are their roles and responsibilities. So basically a test plan will contain each and everything, like it will carry the definitions also, all the definitions. So if it is a smoke testing, what does smoke testing means? If we are doing a regression testing, what does the regression testing means? What does end-to-end testing means? What are their responsibilities? What they are supposed to cover? It will cover everything. And obviously, like test plan is reusable. So when you are running different releases, you can use some things will be common. So for example, here roles and responsibilities, so it will almost be the same in every release. So test lead, test coordinator, they lead the SIT testing, daily progress reporting, any triage meeting, test planning, reviews, coordinations, UAT handover. Test analyst, they are the testers who will be doing the testing. Managers for the escalations. Now technical application manager, so these are the technology guys, maybe the architects, technical leads, same way. Change manager, we have already discussed. So these are the change manager is a person who is responsible for end-to-end success of a project, of a release. Release manager, as we were discussing this, release manager manages the transition of code and releases from development to SIT and UAT and to the prod environments. Now here we need to capture all the trainings we need to have for successful execution of a test cases and scenarios. So there might be a case that testing team, if some member is new, they are not aware about the systems, or some new system is being introduced, some new application is coming in existence. So we will be needing a training, maybe from our business people or from our development people. We need to have that training, or there is some techno-functional kind of role, like some technical stuff also a tester need to know, like very simple, like running a jobs, or holding a job, or running the services, something like that. So scenarios such like we need to stop the service, then we need to run a scenario, and after that we need to rerun the service, small things. Or maybe with respect to some for example like pushing some messages, etc. So whatever technical, functional, any training we need to have for the particular release, we need to list down those trainings, and if we have any plan, that plan also need to be here. Now test environments. So this is also very important aspect. So here we need to publish our matrices of all the systems, subsystems, whatever is getting impacted by the release. We need to have all the systems, subsystems, environment, in which environment we will be testing. So like there uses to be a different environments. So the like for example dev environment. So in the dev environment, it is something like which is for the development team, where they are it is the environment where they are developing the code, where they are doing the unit testing. So that is a dev environment, and they need not have to have any permission. They can to change the code or to make any modifications. So that is their environment. That is a dev environment. So once the build is ready, unit testing has been done, then they will move this code to the testing environment, which we call as a sit environment. There can be different names, it can be anything, but in general I am saying they will move it to sit environment, system integration testing, where sit team will be doing the testing, the functional testing or maybe the interface testing. They will be doing the testing. So for example, when I am talking about the sit testing, now I am having 5 systems which are interacting, and where I am expecting impact of this release. So system 1 is in sit, maybe system 2 in that particular time zone. So they each application will have their own calendar when they are moving to the next environment. So which environment, like system 1 sit environment will connect to the system 2 sit environment. Like all these sit environments ideally will be connected. But for example, suppose the day I am supposed to start my testing, the system 1 is moving to the next level of environment, maybe sit 2 for example, but sit 2 is sending the transaction to sit 2 of system 2, but by that time system 2 sit 2 environment is not ready. They are supposed to be in sit 1 only. So this matrices we need to prepare to have the connectivity and to be aware that in what particular period, in which environment we need to test, we need to run our execution. So normally the sit team will do their testing in sit environment. After that the code will move to the next level, which we can say as a pre-prod or UAT environment, and once they are done, then the code will finally move to the prod environment. So there are different environments, and apart from these also there can be multiple sit 1, sit 2, there can be multiple environments. So this is very important. So testing team need to take all the systems environment with dates. Now if we are doing an automation, then this will be applicable, otherwise it's not applicable. Now the regression testing. So as we have already seen, regression testing is something like we are testing the existing functionality. We are testing that existing functionality does not get impacted due to new requirements. So that is the regression testing. So it has to be done in each release, whatever, because there is a change in the code, some new thing is going to append or add on the top of the old code. So we need to make sure that old functionalities are still intact and those are not getting impacted by the new requirements. Now this is something, again, everything is important in test plan. So this is a very important thing, the entry criteria. Now why it is important? Because these are the rules which we are setting up, which are the standards and which all are agreeing to. So I will go through all these. These are some very basics and which will be applicable for most of the projects, all the items which I have listed down here. So for example, we got a build, but so in general what happens whenever we get a build, So we will be doing a build verification test or a smoke testing. So smoke testing is something like at a very high level, very basic, happy pass scenarios. Happy pass, like we will not be doing any negatives testing. A very basic test we are going to test that if this is working, then we are going to accept this build, and we will be going to a next level to do a functional testing. In-depth testing we are going to do. But if that smoke testing is only going to fail, like the important scenarios, important flows have been blocked due to a SEV1 SEV2 defect in smoke testing phase itself, then what will happen? Then we are not going to move to the functional testing, and we have already listed that conditions here. Okay, so that's why it's important. So coming from the very start, so first of all, it's a kind of a checklist also. Okay, testing resources, we need to identify the testing team, then the test plan has to be reviewed and approved. Okay, very important. Then all the systems which are getting impacted by the release in our example system 1 2 3 4 5, it has to be identified. All the participants of these systems, whether they are dev, BA or SQA team, all need to be identified. The environment calendar, just now we have discussed that. Then the defect management routines, it's a big thing, like what meetings we are going to have, what will be the defect management cycle, where we are capturing the defects, escalation metrics, different things will be there. Then apart from that, if there is any addition, modification or deletion in the release scope, we need to make sure that that has been updated by raising a proper change control. Some change control is in process to make any changes in BRD. We get a thumbs up from our development team that code has been ready. We got their approval, permission to start our testing. Then all our test cases, the scenarios have been reviewed. So when we get the BRD, we start working on that. We will come up with some test scenarios, some high level test scenarios that that will basically depict what is our understanding, and second point is what all areas we are going to cover, what all scenarios we are going to test. So that has to be reviewed by in most of the cases by the development and by the business people. That we need to give a walkthrough, and after that, if there are any changes they ask for, after that we need to take their approval. And after that approval, we need to work on the test script. We need to upload that in, like I'm taking an example of QC or any tool, any application management lifecycle tool we are using, like Jira can be the other tool. Requirements have been finalized and logged, and once we are done with the scripts, then we need to publish the traceability metrics also. So traceability metrics, later on we are going to see. So basically it's a matrix which will showcase that how many test cases are tagged to the requirement, or in other words, are all the requirements covered by the scenarios we have made. So basically it's a check that testing team is covering all the requirements, and if something is missing, that has to be mentioned in out of scope in the test plan. So test data, now this is also very important. Test data, so test data is very important because we may have the scenario, but we will be able to we will be able to like find the defects only if we have a proper test data. So maybe the same scenario that user will be making this type of payment, but the data we are inputting, the characters we are inputting, the place at which we are giving the space, that may matter. So test data depends on the release. Like if there is a restriction on some particular field that has to be 12 character, 13 character. So for example, we need to do a boundary test. So if there is a limit of 12 characters in some subsystem 2, but from the input we can give 15 characters, we need to test that subsystem 2, or I would rather say the upstream, is behaving correctly when I am giving less number of characters, more number of characters, or the max number of characters being allowed. So likewise, based on the different techniques, the scenarios, we need to do the permutation combination, and we need to come up with the test data. This is very important. Deferred defects. So deferred defects are something like the defects which cannot be fixed in the current release. There might be many reasons, like the change control is too big, which was not been realized at the time of designing. So the efforts required to fix that defect is huge, and which cannot be covered in the same release. So that defect may be deferred for the future release. So for deferred defect, we need to take all the approvals from the stakeholders. Approvals in the sense that these are the defects which we are not going to fix in this release, and these development team has deferred it to the future release. So are we good to go with these deferred items or not? Like that. All the tools we will be using the application access, whether we are having all the access, the smoke testing, like if a smoke testing is done, then only we will be stepping into SIT, like that. And at the same time, you can see it is for UAT also. UAT. So what are the conditions? I have now listed only for SIT, but many conditions will be applicable for UAT team also. There might be some extra conditions also. And after that, there is a exit criteria also I have defined here. So exit criteria is a criteria where we are good and we can give the sign off, and the change manager can proceed for pushing the code to the prod environment. So what are the exit criteria are like whatever test script, the scenarios we came up for which we got the approval, those are closed in QC. Those all are run and closed in QC. At code freeze time, we are not having any SEV1 or SEV2 defect. So we are going to discuss like what is the difference between different severity and all that. So there is no high severity defect open at the time of code freeze, and all the unresolved defects which has been reviewed, those we got the approval from the stakeholders to be deferred for a future release. And same thing for the SEV3 also. Then all the summary reports we have submitted, and all the change controls approval we are having, we have documented, we have incorporated all the changes in our test plan successfully, and each level script have been updated, added based on the defects found. Okay, so this is about the exit and entry criteria. Now there will be a defect escalation matrix. So for example, we have raised some defect which it's a set 3 defect, and it's been like almost a week and we haven't got any update from the development team. Even on raising that defect daily in our defect calls, we are not getting any updates on that. So what we will do, there will be one matrix, escalation matrix. So then we will go to their manager, and even then we are not getting a proper response, then we can escalate that to the project manager, the change manager thing. And similarly, if development team is not happy something with the testing team, then they can escalate to the test manager or the project manager, like that. Now defect management. So first we talk about the defect escalation, we talk about, then the triage process. So what is a triage? So if we are getting any defect, then we need to connect to the all the concerned stakeholders in the sense, if there is some problem between a system 1 and system 2, system 1 is making a transaction but it is not reaching to a system 2, or it is getting failed in system 2, then what will happen? We will be triaging, we will be taking the development team of system 1, the development team of system 2, and if required some SMEs or whoever team is required, some message request team, the queues are required, some teams are required for the connectivity. We will take them, we will triage the process, we will like fix. So whose defect is this, whether the system 1 is doing something wrong or system 2 is doing some having a defect, and after fixing the system having a defect, then we will be taking the inputs like what is our target fixed date and all the things. We will be discussing what is a defect, what is the severity, if we need to change the severity, the target fixed date time, all things we will be discussing in the defect triage. Now resolver group. So resolver group is something like whenever we are facing any issue or we are getting any defect, so there will be a resolver group, or there will be a spokesperson from each and every team, from a development team, from a SQA team, whom we can contact. Now the acceptance test. So normally SIT team uses to support the UAT team at the time of their execution. So if they need any help with regards to the connectivity or doing any testing, then SIT team will be helping them. So all that we need to document, like to what level, to what extent we are going to support them. Okay, then defect review, again the same thing. Now we also need to put down in our test planning the different meetings, like how we are going to connect, So here we have given for a defect call that maybe on a daily basis or whenever we require, daily the testing team will be having a defect call with all the important stakeholders and the development teams. Now all the meetings which will be the part of this release, so there will be something called core, in generic I am saying the core team meeting. Core team meeting will include everyone, the development team, all the testing team leads, the managers, all the stakeholders which are involved in that, for discussing if we are coming up with any issues, defect, or the design documents. This core team meeting will be there. Now who will be organizing? It may be the one who is owing the requirement, or the project manager. They will be organizing this meeting. Then there will be a defect triage. So once we are into execution phase, then daily we will be putting a placeholder for a defect meeting. SQA touch points, like internally we are going to connect internally. The SQA team is going to connect maybe every day or every alternate day, depends on the project, to do the task allocations or on any discussion, all these things. Then we will once we are like towards the end of our execution, then we need to touch base with the UAT team to give them the updates. So any meeting which we are going to attend or we are going to schedule as a part of this project, we need to list it down here. Now the reporting process. So basically, what will be the channel, how we are going to inform the stakeholders about the testing progress and about the project progress. So that we need to list down here. So most importantly, by end of the day, we will be sending the daily status report. In the daily status report, all the details will be there, like how many test cases were planned, how many we were able to execute, how many defects are still open, how many are closed, if we have faced any major issues in that day, and what is the outcome of our discussion. All those things we will be putting in a daily status report, which we will be sending to all the important stakeholders. Then there can be something like weekly status report, maybe a summary of the whole report, maybe it may be for some senior management, one level up. So all the reporting things we are going to keep it here. Now we have already seen our exit criteria. Now test completion criteria is also almost the same thing. We will just go through the points. So basically, if we are fulfilling these criteria, that means that we are good and our testing is being completed. So all the planned tests that are in scopes are executed. 100% of the planned high priority test cases we need to complete 100%. So that is an agreement. And 80% of the planned, even the priority 3, the low priority test cases or medium priority test cases, if we are able to cover only 80%, then we can give a conditional sign off or a sign off, whatever. So tests which have been de-scoped, anything which we are making not applicable. So in the starting we got the approval for those scenarios, we included those, but later on it may be because of we are not having the data, or functionality not being delivered, or something got deferred, or at last because of some change controls that scenario doesn't hold good and we have de-scoped for that particular release. So for such scenarios, such scripts, we need to take an approval from mainly we takes from the operations team. And similarly for the no run scenario, it has to be no run. And after that we need to make sure that there is no open SEP1 or SEP2 defects. In case there is an open SEP1 and SEP2 defects, we cannot close the release, we cannot give the sign off. And in case if there is any unresolved defect, what is a workaround for them, and we need to get an approval from the business people that this defect is still been opened, it's been deferred, and if they are good to go live with that defect, they need to provide the approval for the same. Now apart from that, test process documentations. So here I have defined the defects category, but here every account, every company will have some standards which they need to follow. There will be some documentation, some links will be there. We need to put all those standards here, like what company is following. So now coming to defect, as I told you, there are when we are raising a defect, it can be a SEP 1, SEP 2, SEP 3, SEP 4, and it depends on project to project, like how the admin is configuring it. So it may vary. So you can see SEP 1 as a critical. Critical means your testing comes to halt. You cannot do anything. There is no workaround. System application is down. No. So it's a SEP 1. It needs to be fixed urgently. Now second, SEP 2, major. So there is some changes, and that functionality is not working properly, or that functionality is not there is a defect in that, then we can say it's a major defect. Now this SEP 3, minor. So we are having a defect in a functionality, but there is some workaround. So that can be a SEP 3. And SEP 4 is something like cosmetic, very low level defect which is not going to impact much. So that is a trivial or SEP 4, cosmetic defects. So here we are also, like in this document, we are also putting all the testing standards also, like how we are defining SEP 1, SEP 2, SEP 3, because later on it uses to happen in the triage call, like testing team has raised some defect which is like SEP 2, but development team is fighting, and they want it to be SEP 3 because for them it is not making that great impact to the functionality. So that's why we need to put everything in record, so later on it can be referenced. And then the appendix and all, and also the deliverables we are going, the SQ team is responsible to provide, like test plan, the traceability metrics, the test results, closure reports, or any other reports, whatever we have agreed upon, those we need to cover here. So friends, today we have seen the test plan, and it is very important. As I already told you, it is very important for everyone, not only for the test lead and the manager who need to go through such a rigorous process and collect so many metrics and put so much data. Like this is not filled, but it will be like 30 pages, 40 pages, 50 pages, no limit to that. They need to put everything here, every document, every link, every risk, they need to put everything here, all their strategies they need to put it here. So it is very important, and it is important for the team members also to understand actually what is a project, what is the scope. So friends, I like you like the video, and with that I am ending today's video. We will connect again. Thank you.